The McLaren driver had a 10-second lead before the safety car came out, but once the safety car period was over and the green flag was about to come out, Piastri hit the brakes. This caught Max Verstappen, who was riding in second, by surprise and bunched the field up. Not only that, the troubles didn't stop there for Verstappen as he went spinning into the next corner after Piastri stomped on the gas, and the FIA responded in kind by giving Piastri a 10-second time penalty, which ultimately was his undoing in this Grand Prix, erasing his lead in the pits and handing the lead to eventual winner Lando Norris. So, Kobe, starting with you, did the stewards make the right or the wrong decision on the Piastri penalty?
I honestly don't know if they made the right or wrong decision with the penalty, but I can say I think 10-second time penalty, is a little too harsh in this situation. I don't think, Oscar, intentionally, tried to brick check, the field from behind, but I just saw it, as just an unfortunate situation that happened. It ended up costing Oscar Piastri the British Grand Prix because it really seemed like that once he got around Max that this was going to be his race, and then unfortunately Max went spin and ruined his race, and then Oscar had his race ruined right there.
Yeah, I think when it came to Oscar Piastri and the race, I mean, he said it in the post race interviews like, I just tapped the brakes and they gave me a penalty. And I was just thinking, well, I get where you are. You want to give the safety car the space. I just felt like the one of the big keys, and they were talking about this during the race coverage, is the stewards were taking into account everything that happened after that. The fact that Verstappen got around the leader, then had to give up the position. We saw drastically, I thought we were going to see some cars, especially further back, start to pile in, maybe contact between two or three. But then you have Verstappen going for that spin. I think this also influence, and that's why I'm more on the camp that I just think this wasn't the right call. Granted, we had wet conditions and everything. I know F1 TV, the commentator was saying, well, this is to send a little bit of a signal that because of the wet conditions, everything, they don't want anything like this to occur. I just still not convinced that it was the right decision at all. I just think it was just really unfortunate. A 15-second lead to lose it that way, and then to lose a race that way, that has to be harsh.
Indeed, it does. Yeah, as far as the penalty is concerned, I feel like 10 seconds is a bit robust for the infraction involved. But at the end of the day, this is just the kind of things you have to deal with at the top level of motorsports. The officiating body is going to crack down on certain antics, and whether the driver viewed it as an antic or not really just doesn't matter. So, moving on, in the cooldown room after the race, Piastri did not look at or congratulate teammate Lando Norris on a home country victory, I should say. However, Piastri did ask during the race to swap the positions of the two cars since his McLaren team did not agree with the penalty. So, Joe, swinging it back on over to you, did this catch you by surprise, Piastri's behavior after the race? And is this a sign of trouble to come for the McLaren duo?
It could be a sign of trouble if Lando Norris continues to perform better and better. He needs to get to that stage. I don't think he is really at the same level as Oscar Piastri. I mean, he was behind all day, second place all day. I could understand Oscar Piastri frustrated after the penalty, after the pit stop. You're in second place. We should switch positions. Well, 100% disagree with Oscar Piastri in that. Lando didn't do any mistakes. It was your own mistake with the FIA. That's the way it goes. That's a penalty. When it comes to Piastri's behavior after the race in the cooldown room, not congratulating his teammate, not wanting to really acknowledge or look at him, I'm a little torn. Is that something where, okay, just the way he felt he was robbed and everything? maybe he's going to cool down and then eventually reach out to Lando and say, congratulations on that race win and move on. That's great. But the big thing is this, though. You have your two drivers fighting for a championship. Oscar Piastri feels like he's the number one driver. He has the championship lead. He should get the preferential treatment. At the end of the day, though, you make a mistake, you cannot just say, hey, I should get the lead again. No, it doesn't matter that you were both so far ahead of this kick Saubert. You made that mistake on track. Lando had nothing to do with it. Lando got around you. You're going to finish second place. So that's the key, I think, is if Lando keeps performing and putting a little bit more pressure on Oscar Piastri, it could get to that point where those two will not get along. It's just a matter of what Lando could do behind the car, because he still needs to step it up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Joe. While Lando Norris has certainly stepped it up lately, I have to give him credit to that in these last two Grand Prix races. But when you really look at the full picture of the season, Oscar Piastri has been the one who's been more consistent than Lando throughout the season, and so Lando is playing catch up right now. And it was certainly some interesting post race habits there in the cool down room. You know, Piastri rightfully congratulated Nico Hulkenberg for getting his podium, which we'll talk about in just a little while. And then Lando comes in the room and he basically, just continues to look in one direction, not even, not even saying like, congrats, man, or like bumping fists, shaking hands, none of that. You can't really blame Oscar for feeling, that type of way, frustrated, the frustration of feeling robbed, because as we just debated whether the stewards made the right or wrong call. I guess you can say that he was robbed of the race victory today, because it looked like Oscar was going to win that race if it wasn't for the penalty. So super unfortunate. I thought it was entirely laughable that he came over the radio and said, since we both agreed that that I didn't deserve the penalty here, can we just swap us back and have us race it out? Basically, yeah, I'm with you, Joe. Like, no, that's not how it works. You, the driver, and the team may feel very upset by the penalty, but at the end of the day, the penalty is the penalty, and if you don't serve your penalty, obviously they're going to black flag you and stop scoring you. So Piastri served his penalty and went on about that. But I think it would have been extremely ridiculous if McLaren had, given in to his demands and say, Lando, let Oscar go back by and we're going to have you race it out. Like, that just would have been completely nonsensical if they would have allowed that to happen. But today it seemed like, Oscar, got super frustrated for the very first time, because we've given him a lot of credit for being cool, calm, and collective. And today was really the first time which we saw the frustration boil over for him. And if Lando continues to, inch closer to him, I wonder what's going to happen between the two. I don't know if this is a sign of trouble to come, but certainly going to make for some interesting discussions at the McLaren camp moving forward.
No kidding. Yeah, I feel like Piastri's lack of congratulations to Lando, I can kind of understand it. I definitely feel like he kind of got his win taken away from him, especially when you consider prior to that safety car, he had a 10-second advantage, and then he was given a 10-second penalty right afterwards. So not only was your 10-second lead erased, you have to give up an additional 10 seconds to the competition in pit road later on. That said, I feel like at the same time, much like Connor Zilic in yesterday's Xfinity Series race, I feel like this kind of squabble between he, Norris, and the team is only going to make Oscar Piastri stronger going forward. And I'm sure that, considering his way of lobbying for the go-ahead to get past Lando after the team, and he agreed that the penalty was unfair, I feel like going forward, Oscar will probably remember how he was treated in this moment and use it against them in other times. So we'll all have to stay tuned for that.